Sometimes, right before you fall asleep, there's an almost imperceptible moment when everything around you seems to slow down. The lights grow softer, the sounds more distant, and even your breathing begins to follow a deeper rhythm, as if it's being guided by something greater than you. It's in this subtle space, between the last conscious thought and the first sign of sleep, that a silent invitation appears, a calling that isn't heard with the ears, but with the soul. It's as if life itself whispers, "Pay attention. Something important is happening inside you right now." A hidden, almost secret invitation asking you to look within before the night embraces you, as if an ancient wisdom were waiting for you in the dark, not to scare you, but to remind you of something you forgot in the middle of your day. Because when night comes, it doesn't just arrive to rest the body. It opens a portal for cleansing, for healing, for restoration. In that moment, built-up emotions begin to move, memories stir, and forgotten thoughts return, trying to claim your attention. It almost feels like certain invisible forces choose that exact time to whisper doubts, awaken worries, and throw your peace out of tune. But these forces, no matter how frightening they may seem, are not monsters hiding in the dark. They're remnants of what we didn't resolve during the day. They're thoughts left loose, emotions asking for care, fears waiting to be seen with honesty. And it's here, in this sacred moment of the night, that a luminous truth begins to emerge. Jesus, in his deep wisdom, knew that the human mind becomes fragile when the day ends. He knew that it's precisely when we're more tired, more vulnerable, and more sensitive that certain patterns draw near, not to destroy us, but because we've opened space for them. And because he knew this vulnerability so well, he left teachings that are as simple as they are powerful. Teachings that can completely transform your inner atmosphere before you sleep. Teachings that don't require complex rituals or complicated theories. Just words. 2 words capable of changing the state of the soul. 2 words capable of bringing protection, clarity, and peace. And when we listen to this silent calling of the night with an open heart, we begin to realize that nothing trying to confuse us actually has power over us, because there is a path, there is a refuge, there is a light. Jesus left us, a light that is still alive, just waiting for us to recognize it. This is the journey that begins now. A gentle, deep, and luminous journey. A return to what has always lived within you. When we talk about negative forces, many people imagine something external, as if there were hidden entities waiting for the right moment to attack. But when we look more closely, we realize that much of what we call darkness is born inside us, not as an enemy, but as a reflection of the experiences we carry. Negative forces, from a philosophical and spiritual perspective, are not mysterious creatures. They are mental patterns. They are old memories that still hurt, thoughts that come back like echoes, emotions that never received an answer, worries we use as a form of protection, but that end up draining us. They gain strength when we're tired, when we lower our emotional guard, when our attention is scattered and our presence is lost. That's why nighttime feels so sensitive, because the silence reveals what the noise of the day tried to hide. The ancient Stoic philosophers, as wise as they were simple in their words, understood this deeply. They taught that the human mind needs vigilance, not like someone watching a criminal, but like someone tending a garden. Because disorganized thoughts are like weeds. They're not evil, they just grow when we stop paying attention. Jesus also understood this dynamic, not as a theorist, but as someone who saw the human heart without masks. He knew that a mind left adrift creates storms that weren't there before. He knew that anxiety multiplies when it isn't acknowledged. He knew that old memories can make more noise than the present moment. So when we talk about negative forces here, we're talking about the weight of a difficult day, the worry that keeps showing up, the doubt that whispers, the feeling of not being enough, the fear that something will go wrong, the emotional exhaustion that's been piling up. All of this may look like a spiritual battle, but at its core, it's a battle of consciousness, a dance between light and shadow inside the human mind. And there's a simple truth. Darkness isn't fighting you. It just waits for you to turn off your light. That's the central point. Darkness has no movement of its own. It doesn't advance. It doesn't attack. It doesn't create anything. It only exists where light has not yet arrived. Just like a room that remains dark only until you flip on the switch. The simple act of lighting a candle changes everything, not because it defeated the darkness, but because it dissolved it. In the same way, negative mental patterns begin to dissolve when we bring presence, awareness, and deep breathing to them. They can't resist an honest gaze. They can't resist light. They can't resist an awakened heart. And this is why Jesus used short words, because he knew that, at the right moment, a simple phrase can reignite a light that was almost out. Before we unveil the 2 words he left, words you can use every night, it's important to understand that nothing external needs to be fought. The work is internal. The freedom is internal. Peace begins inside. And when we understand this, everything changes. Jesus always spoke in a language that didn't require books, secret codes, or difficult theories. He spoke directly to the heart, and maybe that's why his teachings cross centuries as if they had been spoken yesterday. He understood the human soul in depth, not its social masks, but its fears, its fragility, its longing for love and meaning. When Jesus said, "Watch and pray," he wasn't proposing a rigid ritual. He was pointing to something much more intimate, the need for awareness. To watch is to be present, to notice when a thought is taking up more space than it should, to sense when your heart starts racing out of fear, not out of truth, to recognize when old emotions are trying to take control. To pray, in its essence, is to connect, not with automatic words, but with intention. It's bringing your soul back to its center. It's breathing with God. It's calming the inner sea that often churns for no clear reason. Jesus knew the real battle wasn't out there. He didn't say, "Be afraid of the world." He said, "Do not be afraid." And those words were repeated so many times because he understood that fear is the place where the soul weakens and loses clarity. Most of the storms we face are not outside, but inside. There are storms of memories, storms of expectations, storms of anxiety. And as Jesus walked among people, he didn't just heal their bodies, he lit up their consciousness. He spoke with a serenity that changed the atmosphere around him. He said simple phrases that felt like opening windows of fresh air inside people's minds. He reminded them that the kingdom of heaven, such a symbolic expression, was not a distant place, but an inner state. The protection Jesus offered was never an external armor. It was clarity. It was presence. It was light. He showed that no one is defeated by what happens on the outside, but by what they begin to believe on the inside. That the enemy is not the world, but the way we interpret it when we're tired and disconnected. That's why Jesus spoke so much about inner peace. For him, peace was not a final prize, but a path, a practice, a state that grows from the inside out. And when he calmed the storm with just a few words, "Peace, be still," he didn't just calm the sea. He showed his disciples that the real storm had always been internal, that the waters outside only reflected the fear that was shaking the waters within. Everything he was, everything he taught, pointed to an inner refuge, a place where no negative force can reach, a space within the heart where there is silence, clarity, courage, and light. It is to this space that we are returning now. There is something deeply mysterious and, at the same time, wonderfully simple in the way Jesus used words. He didn't talk excessively. He didn't give complicated speeches. He didn't rely on long explanations. He said what was necessary, and every phrase seemed to touch the very center of the human soul. Jesus knew that words create atmosphere, not only in the outer environment, but mainly within us. A single sentence can calm a heart, change the direction of a thought, or free someone from a fear that once felt indestructible. A single word can be like a beam of light cutting through the dense fog of doubt. When he healed, he often used only a short expression: rise, be clean, come, forgiven, peace be with you. Jesus understood the vibrational power of the word. He knew the human voice is like a spiritual instrument that can open internal doors or close them. He knew words carry frequency, intention, direction, and this view wasn't isolated. In Hermetic thought, we find the idea that the universe is mental. Everything begins as thought, vibration, consciousness. And the word is the bridge that turns vibration into form, intention into emotional reality. When you speak, your body listens. The mind responds. The heart reacts. The soul awakens. Jesus was fully aware of this. He knew short words are like arrows of light. They move through the darkness effortlessly. He knew that in the midst of confusion or fear, the mind is not ready for long explanations. It needs clarity. It needs focus. It needs a simple direction to look toward. That's why he used such direct phrases, because they didn't demand complex reasoning. They invited surrender. They didn't require study. They asked for openness. They were like spiritual commands that rearranged everything inside. Before sleep, when loose emotions can get stirred up, when old memories surface, when worries try to steal your peace, Jesus knew that just a few words, spoken with awareness, could completely transform the state of your soul. So the 2 words we're about to reveal are not magic formulas. They are invitations. Invitations to enter a higher state of consciousness. Invitations to turn on the light. Invitations to remember what your soul already knows, but sometimes forgets. Words are portals. And when used with intention, they become powerful spiritual tools. We are getting close to them now. At first glance, it might seem unlikely that just 2 words could transform something as deep as a person's emotional and spiritual state. We're used to thinking that meaningful change depends on great effort, long practices, or complex teachings. But in reality, human beings respond more intensely to the simple than to the elaborate. When the mind is tired, it can't hold on to long speeches. It doesn't process lists, theories, or intricate reasoning, but it anchors itself in short commands. The human brain was shaped to react quickly to essential signals. A short phrase cuts through mental noise. It goes straight to the center. It doesn't get lost in the maze of thoughts. It pierces the fog. And even more, the body believes what your mouth says. It's not just psychological, it's physiological. When you speak something with intention, your nervous system responds. Your breathing shifts, your muscles loosen, your heart rate settles, your mind receives a new command. Jesus understood this perfectly. He didn't speak at length because he knew the path to the soul needs to be direct, light, precise. His words were like drops of light falling into stirred-up waters, reorganizing everything around them. And there's an even deeper secret. The soul recognizes truth when it comes in simplicity. It's not the structure that transforms. It's the intention, not the quantity. It's the frequency, not the effort. It's the presence. 2 words full of meaning can open inner doors that have been locked for years. They can untie emotional knots. They can quiet old fears. They can protect your mind from thoughts that no longer belong in you. Just 2 words. Because 2 words can work like a key that fits perfectly into the spiritual lock you carry inside. Jesus spoke in short phrases because he knew that, in the face of fear, anxiety, or doubt, the soul doesn't need explanation. It needs direction. And these 2 words we're about to reveal carry exactly that. A direction, a calling, a divine reminder, a return to the center. You're about to receive something too simple to ignore, and too powerful to forget. The first word is one of the phrases Jesus repeated most throughout his journey. He didn't say it only to one particular disciple. He didn't teach it only to a chosen few. He offered it to everyone, to the tired, the sick, the afraid, the lost, and those who had already given up hope. The first word is, fear not. Do not be afraid. Simple, direct, illuminating. Jesus said, fear not, countless times, because he knew fear is one of the most silent and, at the same time, most dominant forces in the human soul. He knew that fear paralyzes, that fear distorts, that fear steals clarity and shuts the doors of consciousness. Fear speaks to the mind in whispers. What if something goes wrong? What if you fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if? And fear loves the night. Because night is quiet, and silence amplifies everything we didn't resolve. But when Jesus said, "Fear not," he wasn't telling people to ignore reality or run away from life. He was showing an inner path, a deep spiritual truth. Fear is not who you are. Fear is just a visitor, and you don't have to bow down to it. Fear not doesn't deny what's going on. Fear not brings light to it. It's like lighting a lantern in the middle of a dark room. The darkness doesn't disappear because you fought with it. It disappears because the light turned on. And when you quietly say, "Fear not," especially at night, something shifts inside you. Your breathing changes. Your mind slows down. Your heart finds a steadier rhythm. It's as if a silent strength rests its hands on your shoulders and says, "You are safe. I am here." Jesus didn't use these words as a cold command, but as an embrace, a reminder for your heart not to shrink back, a call for your soul to trust again, an invitation for you to remain in the light, even when everything feels confusing. Fear not means, I remember who I am. I won't surrender to the stories in my mind. I walk with clarity. I don't run away from the light within me. And when you say this phrase before bed, it interrupts the cycle of anxiety. It cuts the thread of thoughts that try to multiply. It dissolves memories that want to steal your peace. It touches the heart like a soft whisper from Jesus, saying what he has always said, "I am with you." Now that you know the first word, it's important to turn it into practice, not as a mechanical ritual, but as a gesture of presence, almost like a silent prayer you make to yourself and to the divine at the same time. Before you sleep, when the lights go out and the outside world starts to fade, the mind usually becomes more sensitive. Thoughts come to life, memories show up uninvited, worries try to slip in through the half-open door of your awareness. This is the moment to return to simplicity. Sit or lie down gently, breathe deeply and slowly, as if you were preparing your body for a sacred rest. Then, in a low voice or only in your mind, say softly, "Fear not. Do not be afraid." Don't say it like someone repeating something on autopilot. Say it like someone who is laying down their heart. Say it like someone turning on an inner light. Say it like someone talking to their own spirit. As you speak these words, let your breath follow the rhythm. Inhale to create space. Exhale to let go. With each repetition, imagine a lightness rising within you, like an invisible weight being released. Feel your muscles relax. Feel your mind loosening the tensions it had been holding. Feel that something greater than you is holding your hand in the dark. Use "fear not" as a command to come back home, as a path back to your center. When heavy thoughts appear, you don't need to fight them. Just breathe and repeat, "Fear not," and they start to lose their grip. When a worry insists on speaking loudly, don't try to force it into silence. Just return to the inner whisper, "Fear not," and you remember that you are the space, not the noise. If you want to go deeper, you can add a simple visualization. Imagine a soft light above your head, like a warm, quiet, comforting glow. This light slowly begins to descend, touching your mind, your eyes, your face. It moves down through your shoulders, your chest, your hands. It surrounds your whole body. And then you repeat, "Fear not," and the light expands. This practice doesn't require effort. It requires surrender. And the more you do it, the more your body learns that these words are a signal of protection, an invitation to serenity, a return to the peace Jesus taught. Repeating "Fear not" before bed is like calming the storm before it even starts. It is remembering that fear is temporary, that the soul is eternal, and that the night, when guided by the right light, stops being a space of restlessness and becomes a temple of rest and healing. This is the preparation for the second word. And when the two come together, something even deeper happens. If the first word dissolves fear, the second brings what comes after freedom: peace. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, or answers, or guarantees. A peace that rises from the inner silence, from that place where the soul finally rests. The second word is Be still, be calm, be at peace. Be still is not just a request to slow down. It's an invitation to return to your center, to the place where nothing is missing, nothing is threatening, nothing is pushing you around. It's a reminder that there is a point of stillness inside you that is never lost, only covered by the noise of the mind. This word echoes one of the most symbolic moments of all, when Jesus, facing a frightening storm, stood up and said, "Peace, be still," and the sea obeyed. But what many don't realize is that Jesus wasn't only calming the visible sea, he was calming the inner storm in his disciples, their fear, their desperation, their doubt, their inability to see beyond the wave right in front of them. Be still is a spiritual key, an arrow pointing inward, a silent breath that says, peace is not out in the world, peace is within you. When you say, be still, your mind begins to slow down. Your heart finds new spaces between each beat. Your breathing stops being automatic and becomes a sacred act. Be still doesn't mean the absence of movement. It means complete presence. It means being fully here, in the now, without chasing after thoughts that haven't happened yet, and without dragging around weights that should have been left behind. It's also a word of protection, because a calm mind sees clearly. A calm mind is not easily manipulated. A calm mind doesn't drown in temporary emotions. A calm mind becomes a safe place for your own spirit. If fear not breaks through the darkness, be still turns on the light. If fear not pulls you out of chaos, be still brings you back into balance. If fear not sets you free, be still sustains you. And at night, when everything is more sensitive, when emotions stir and thoughts multiply, this word becomes like a silent hug inside your soul. Say be still gently, as if you were talking to your inner child who just needs to be held, as if you were saying to your own heart, you don't have to run, I'm here, let's rest. This is the second key, a key of peace, a key of sacred silence, a key that returns you to what is most true in you. And when this word meets the first, something very powerful awakens. The second word, be still, reveals even more of its power when you apply it at the right moment, with presence and tenderness. And the most powerful moment for that is at night. When your body starts to slow down, when your mind tries to close the day, when unresolved emotions want to rise to the surface, be still becomes an inner lighthouse. The practice is simple, but deep. After repeating fear not a few times and feeling the weight of the day start to dissolve, let silence draw nearer. Not an empty silence, but a living one, as if the whole world were breathing with you. And then, in a soft voice, or just in your thoughts, say, be still, be at peace. Say it slowly. Say it like each syllable is an act of care. Say it like you're calling your soul back home. Feel your body respond. Feel the air flowing in and out more slowly. Feel that, little by little, something inside you starts to reorganize. If you'd like, you can turn this into a small ritual, not a rigid one, but a gesture of kindness toward yourself. Take 3 deep breaths, as if you were opening the door for peace to enter. Bring your attention to your heart, not to force anything, but simply to feel the life pulsing inside you. Repeat slowly. Be still, as if each repetition were a wave of calm moving through your mind. Allow your thoughts to pass without following them. The word is your center. Everything else is just movement. In time, you'll notice that be still creates a kind of emotional protection field. Not a hard barrier, but an atmosphere of serenity that keeps worries from entering so easily. When the heart is quiet, nothing from the outside can create chaos inside. Use be still before you sleep. Use it when you wake up, before your day begins on autopilot. Use it when you feel emotional pressure, when your chest tightens, when your mind wants to run faster than you can. Use it whenever something tries to steal your peace. The power of this word isn't in the sound, it's in the state it calls forth. It's a constant reminder that there is a place within you where nothing can hurt you, where everything is clear, where everything is simple, where everything is quiet. And every time you say it, that place grows a little more. As these words begin to live inside you, something powerful happens when they come together. It's as if they form a spiritual shield, a luminous shelter that Jesus, in all his wisdom, already knew you would one day need. Now that each word has found its place in your heart, it's time to unite them, because when they walk together, they create something even greater. A simple, deep, and silently powerful method capable of transforming your nights, protecting your mind, and stabilizing your soul. When you combine fear not and be still, something shifts inside you. They form a double movement, like inhaling and exhaling, like light and silence, like courage and peace. Fear not dissolves fear. Be still stabilizes your spirit. It's as if one word opens the door and the other turns on the light in the room. One removes the shadow. The other illuminates the space. Together, they become a spiritual shield. Imagine it like this. You're in a boat on a stormy night. The wind is strong, the waves are high, and everything seems out of control. Suddenly, you hear a calm and steady voice saying, "Fear not." And immediately, fear loses some of its grip. The storm doesn't seem invincible anymore. Your heart stops racing uncontrollably. The confusion eases. Then the same voice says, "Be still," and the waters grow calm. The wind slows down, and inside you, a luminous clarity is born. These two words are like Jesus reaching out his hand in the middle of the night, saying exactly what you need to hear to come back to your center. Use this method like a spiritual breath. Inhale and think, "Fear not." Exhale and think, "Be still." It's almost like a silent prayer, almost like a conversation with the divine, almost like a way to reorganize your inner world without effort. And notice how deep this really is. Fear not pulls you out of chaos. Be still places you in peace. Fear not reminds you of your courage. Be still returns you to balance. Fear not breaks through the darkness. Be still turns on the light. It's like lighting a flame and then shielding that flame from the wind. Like building a shelter inside yourself. Like holding your own heart in your hands and saying, "You are safe. You can rest now." This combination creates an inner state that isn't easily shaken. A state that breathes with clarity, sees with wisdom, and feels with confidence. And when you practice it every night, it begins to shape your energy, your mind, and the way you show up in the world. Jesus knew that simple words, when used with awareness, become shields. And these two are exactly that, a shield made of light and silence. When these two words, fear not and be still, become part of your routine, especially in the most sensitive moment of the night, something begins to change inside you. And this change is not imaginary. It's not self-deception. It's not a belief with no grounding. It is deep, practical, measurable, and spiritual at the same time. First, your anxiety starts to fade. Not because it suddenly disappears, but because it loses power in the presence of clarity. When you say fear not, your mind stops clinging to worst-case scenarios and begins to relax. Your nervous system responds right away. Your body understands it doesn't need to fight or flee. It's as if someone finally turned off an internal alarm that had been ringing for far too long. Then a new mental sharpness appears, a kind of soft focus. Not the tense focus that tries to control everything, but a serene focus, like someone observing life from within, without rushing. This happens because be still reorganizes the mind. It turns down the noise. It separates what's true from what's just imagination. It brings everything back to the present moment, the only place where real strength exists. You also begin to feel a kind of protection that doesn't come from outside, but from within. A silent shelter that moves with your thoughts, your steps, your breath. It's not a protection built on fear, but on awareness. Over time, you realize that not everything deserves your energy. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every noise deserves a place inside your soul. And something even deeper happens. Your faith grows, not a blind faith, but a living faith, born from experience. Faith that expands every time you repeat these words and feel your body respond. Every time your mind slows down, every time your peace returns. This faith is not imposed, it simply rises on its own. Jesus changed the atmosphere around him with words. Not because his words were magic, but because they were true. He knew human consciousness can rise with small gestures, as long as those gestures are filled with intention. The same is happening here. These transformations are not superstition. They don't depend on rigid beliefs. They don't demand forced devotion. They come because you're training your mind to respond to light instead of shadow, because you're teaching your soul the way back to silence, because you're building inside yourself a state so stable that no negative force, whether a fear, a doubt, or a heavy emotion, can cross its threshold. As the days pass, you'll notice you feel lighter, more centered, more present, more protected, more whole. And all of this began with two simple words, two keys, two portals, two gifts Jesus offered for moments exactly like this. Those nighttime moments when the soul needs care. When you keep this practice alive, it doesn't just improve your nights, it changes the way you walk through life. Now that you've walked through each word, each image, each silence, allow yourself to take a deep breath. Notice what stayed inside you. Not the text, not the theory, but the presence. The soft light that began to shine as you absorbed these two spiritual keys. There is something deeply transformative about realizing that peace doesn't come from outside. It's born in the moment you choose to look within. In the moment you decide not to run away from yourself. In the moment you remember that Jesus, in his timeless wisdom, never taught for the sake of fear. He taught for the sake of the soul. And the soul understands what is simple. The soul understands what is gentle. The soul understands silence. When Jesus said, "Fear not," he was looking beyond what human eyes could see. He saw the light behind the confusion. He saw strength behind fragility. He saw essence behind fear. When he said, "Be still," he was pointing to the path home, the path back to the center, the path back to the quiet place where the divine presence finds room to speak. And now, these two words are yours as well, not as a rigid mantra or a strict ritual, but as a homecoming every night to who you truly are, a soul that carries light, a consciousness capable of choosing peace, a spirit guided by wisdom. By practicing these words before you sleep, you build a bridge between the day that has ended and the peace that is arriving. You remind your body it can rest. You remind your mind it can let go. You remind your soul it was never alone. And before we close this journey, I leave you with a gentle invitation. Try it tonight. Before you sleep, turn off the noise, dim the lights, place a hand over your heart and repeat, "Fear not. Be still." Notice what happens inside you. Notice how your body responds. Notice how the night changes when peace enters first. And now, to end this video with presence, surrender, and light, I want to leave you with a question so you can share in the comments, not for the algorithm, but for connection. Which of the two words touched your heart the most today? Answer honestly. And if this message brought peace, clarity, or protection to your spirit, remember to leave a like and subscribe so you can keep receiving messages that nourish your soul. May Jesus light up your night. May your awareness stay awake, and may your soul rest in the gentle silence of peace. Good night, and may your inner light always shine.